Joining us now, NBC White House correspondent Mike Memoli outside of Pittsburgh, where the president will be next. Former Obama White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs and Michigan Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. Welcome all. Mike, first to you. Your history of covering Joe Biden on Labor Day is replete with plenty of stops. We've got you in Pittsburgh, including this from Labor Day just, I guess, 4 years ago?
4 years ago, that's right. Talk about what this means in terms of your political future here. Is this an audition for 2020?
My political future. I've been with these guys my whole life. As my grandfather Finnegan in Scranton, you say, Joe, you're labor from belt buckle to shoe sole, man. I go anywhere with these guys. These are the guys that bring me to the dance.
So the question, Mike, is are the labor guys still with him, given just how red-ish Pennsylvania is going, according to all the polling and according to the way the vote went last time around?
Yeah, Andrea, this is obviously kind of a political home base for the president. This is not just where he had that audition for 2020 4 years ago. It was where he held his first rally of his 2020 campaign and his final rally with Lady Gaga of the 2020 campaign as well. And so this is really an important day, an important moment for the president to start the Democrats off on a, optimistic foot. He's going to be talking about him being, as he sees himself, the most pro-union president in American history. But he's also going to be talking about those economic successes of late, including the Inflation Reduction Act. And it's an important balancing act, Andrea. There are a lot of reasons why Democrats feel like maybe not that they no longer face headwinds. They wouldn't say the wind's at their back, but they certainly feel their political fortunes have improved. And that's a large part because of the abortion decision. But also there is an important opportunity and need for Democrats to talk about bread and butter issues that are important to union workers, like the economy. Listen to part of my conversation this morning with Josh Shapiro, of course, the Democratic nominee for governor, who talked about these sort of walking and chewing gum at the same time. Take a listen. Abortion really did seem to change the race for a lot of Democratic candidates across the country. How are you balancing these issues? And what are you finding voters are most interested as you're talking to voters across the state?
Look, Pennsylvanians know how to walk and chew gum, right? They can think about multiple things at the same time. I'll be a governor that protects a woman's right to choose. I'll be a governor that protects people's right to vote. And I think people all across Pennsylvania understand we've got to do both, create opportunity and defend our freedoms.
So, Andrea, that's quite a statement, Andrea, from a potential future Pennsylvania governor, when you know the history, as you know well, in Pennsylvania, of a former Pennsylvania governor, Bob Casey, who was anti-abortion. Even Joe Biden, of course, has had his position on abortion evolve over the years. But that's one of the main reasons why Democrats do feel like they do have a fighting chance here. But it is important to note, I also spoke this morning with Congressman Conor Lamb. He, of course, ran in that Senate primary, but he had run in 3 tough House races over the years in a Trump-leaning district. He said, yes, abortion has given Democrats a real uphill opportunity that is less so now. But he said we need to focus on those bread and butter issues as well. And that was exactly, Andrea, as well, the same message from the local union leader as well, saying Biden is a pro-union president. We're getting back to basics and talking about the economy.
Yet, Congresswoman Dingell, Donald Trump was in Wilkes-Barre following on the heels of the president there. He was there Saturday night. The president was there just a couple of days earlier. And he's got real appeal in your state of Michigan, real appeal in Wisconsin, outside of Milwaukee. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, 3 states that are really important to the Democrats, but they're going to be a lot tougher in this midterm, aren't they?
So you can't take Michigan for granted. Donald Trump is obsessed with the state, and my hair looks frizzy because I have been at 8 different union picnics already and about 5 more to go. So, and I'm at the teachers where choice is very much an issue that's on their minds, but I have been with the IBEW, I've been with the laborers and pipe fitters, the painters, and they are worried about the economy. Conor Lamb is right. We got to talk about both. They like what Joe Biden is doing. The younger workers feel like he's fighting hard to give them an environment and is supporting them in their ability to unionize at Starbucks and other local stores. Some of the older established unions are worried. UAW is worried about what do electric vehicles mean to them. But Joe Biden, when he's with those workers, connects, talks to them, understands their insecurity, And he knows he's got to talk to him. And I know that's why we're going to win in November, because we got to do both issues. We have to do, choice really matters, but so does the economy.
Well, Robert Gibbs, you had Fetterman there today in Pennsylvania with the president, but not there at his last appearance. And you've got Mandela Barnes, the Senate candidate in Wisconsin, not even showing up in Milwaukee, even though he is in Milwaukee at other events today. What kind of a snub is that to a president whose poll numbers have been inching up and they have been producing legislative victories for Democrats?
Yeah, Andrew, I think each candidate's going to make decisions really by the week and by the event on whether or not they appear with the president or really any surrogate. I think that's not really all that terribly uncommon. I would say to most candidates, if you look at what's happened over the last 6 weeks that you mentioned, president's approval rating has gone from about upper 37% to more than 42%. So over the last 6 weeks, the president's political health has gotten stronger. I think if you look at excitement among the Democratic base, that's clearly ramped up. So I think with this 9-week sprint going into Election Day from today and Labor Day, I think you're going to see more and more people that do appear with them. But again, each of these candidates is going to make their own decisions.
Congressman Dingell, what about the abortion issue and how big a motivator that is after the Kansas referendum and what we've seen in those 2 special elections as well?
I can tell you that in Michigan, it's the #1 issue. I just got my polling back for my election in the general election, and choice was actually the #1 issue. The economy was only #3. But if you're out and about, there are a lot of Republican women that are very uncomfortable with the reversal of Roe versus Wade. For many, like myself, I'm a Catholic woman. I couldn't, but I do believe it's women's personal health care. It is an individual's right to choose. And there are Republican men that you are talking to that are making it very clear that they're uncomfortable about the Republican gubernatorial candidate because of that issue. So it is front and center on this ballot, and it's going to drive people to the polls in November without question.
Mike Memoli, I also want to ask you about the president's speech last week. The criticism has been from some that it was too hard-edged, that by going after the MAGA Republicans and, calling them names, and, of course, going after Donald Trump by name, that he also may have turned off some independents and some other Republicans, even those who don't fully support Donald Trump. What do you say?
Yeah, Andrea, I think it was important when you looked at the president's remarks. He did try to make an explicit distinction between what he called mainstream Republicans and that extreme MAGA wing. But I've been talking to some Democrats and others close to the White House who felt like the president could have been even clearer in making that distinction. For instance, one person told me that perhaps the president could have invoked the name of Liz Cheney to try to make it clear, as the president did himself say the next day, he wasn't talking about anybody who voted for Donald Trump being part of who that message was directed toward. He understands that people vote for a presidential candidate for a number of reasons, but he was trying to talk specifically about those people who, as he says, and he sees it, embrace political violence, who don't accept the results of free and fair elections. And so it was interesting, as part of my conversation this morning with Josh Shapiro, that he did sort of distance himself as well from the president and his speech there. He said, I'm not sure whether that helps me or hurts me here in my race, but that he's focused on, as he put it, Washington County versus what's taking place in Washington, D.C.
And Robert Gibbs, how do you weigh the balance between going after Donald Trump, who is now, looming so large, especially because of all of the events on the legal front, and dominating the conversation, and drawing that contrast without turning off Republicans and others who might, vote for Democratic candidates, might cross over?
Yeah, it's a great question too, Andrew. I think the most important thing is that this president is trying very hard to bring Donald Trump into parts of the discussion in this campaign that I think are good contrasts for him and for other Democrats, particularly on issues of democracy. We've seen those issues in the NBC poll and other polls become more important for voters. And I think each time that this president can make the election a choice rather than a referendum on him, he'll be well served and candidates will be well served.